Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. I'm Chet Zar. Today is episode, I don't even know. Let's see, what episode is it? Unprepared as usual. Let's see. Episode number 220. Today had a great interview with dark artist Kamila Mlynarczyk. I said it right. Kamila Mlynarczyk. It's actually not that hard once you say it. Kamila Mlynarczyk. It doesn't look like it's spelled that way. But when you see her work, you'll know who I'm talking about. She's really, really great. She kind of made her name for herself doing these super creepy art dolls. She's been in the Conjoined show many times, and she also does these amazing illustrations and has a book coming out that's on Kickstarter right now. The link is in the description. What is the name of the book? I'm so unprepared. My wife's like, we got to go and play badminton in 5 minutes. I'm like, give me 8 minutes. I Can Be Myself When Everyone I Know Is Dead. That's the name of her book project on Kickstarter. There will be a link in the description. But her work's great. It's hilarious and dark and super cool. Just great. And we had an excellent conversation. So that's coming up. Sorry, I just ate, so I'm kind of phlegmy. I gotta go play my badminton. That's our exercise for the day. We play extreme badminton. We weigh down the shuttlecocks so that we have to hit them really hard. It's pretty fun. Anyway, stay tuned for that. It's a really excellent interview. There's some weird hissing that came through. I tried to correct it with some filters, but a couple little hisses came through. So just bear with us. It's worth it. The interview's really good. Camila's awesome. So I've just been recovering from the Chaos show. You probably could tell how tired I was on the last week's podcast if you listened. It was brutal, and I'm finally starting to feel myself again, and still taking it slow. It takes me longer to recover now from these crazy hours than it used to. But I got through it, and it's all good. So I haven't even started kind of getting caught up on what I need to get back into as far as work goes. Like I gotta figure out new mystery boxes this year. I've got to figure out new stuff for that. What else? I don't even know yet because I haven't really even thought about it. I went and signed wall plaques at Copro and doodled wall plaques because we're still selling those for the Chaos show. I dropped off prints, and I did that on Saturday. But other than that, I've just been kind of taking it easy. So really not much to report from here. Just not really doing much of anything, which is nice because I can't. I'm just too beat. But it was all worth it. Anyway, so let's get on with it. I know. Misha George asked me this question. I need to start answering questions too. I think that was an interesting feature that I stopped doing. I need to create an email just for questions for the show. He had a great question he wanted answered, so I'm going to read it. He said, "Had a great time at the Chaos opening, and I enjoyed last week's solo podcast about the chaos of putting the Chaos show together. Any chance you were aware that the exhibit opened right in the middle of Mercury in retrograde, which is typically believed to be a period of heightened chaos? And was that purely coincidental or intentional at all?" And, it was totally unintentional. Another one of those kind of magic things that happens when you let it. So yeah, that was a trip, but it happened to be during Mercury retrograde. Pretty funny. I didn't even think about it until he asked me that. But kind of perfect, really, for a show about chaos. So thanks for that, Misha. That was a really cool observation. Okay, so let's get with the new subscribers here. You can join the Dark Art Society Patreon for only $1. It's cheap. You get in the Facebook group and get on the website, and there's all kinds of benefits. Get the podcast early, and just the main thing is the $1 entrance fee keeps the assholes out, and because I find that trolls don't like to pay $1. People don't like to have to pay $1 to be an asshole, seems like. So and it keeps this podcast going. Pays me a little bit to take the time to do it every week, and but really, like I said, it's really more of an entry to keep a barrier to keep out assholes, and from the Facebook group. And the Facebook group is amazing, the Dark Art Society Cooperative. I mean, there's a Dark Art Society members show happening at Skull and Snake Tattoo Shop. Dan Kelly's putting together. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Everybody's supporting each other, helping each other out. It's really amazing. If you're a fan of dark art or a dark artist, it's the place to be. So it's patreon.com/darkartsociety. And here's let me get the new members here. See, I had this set up and I screwed it all up. Let's see here. And then I'll read your name off too as a new member. Okay, new members this week. Oh, Alan Smith, thank you for raising your pledge. It's very kind of you. Jacob Bremfer, thank you. Ben, thank you. Otis Chamberlain, thank you. And Black Meadow Gallery and Tattoo. That's it for this week. So thank you all for making it happen. Really appreciate it. And couldn't do it without you for sure. This community keeps growing, keeps getting better. The podcast interviews keep getting better. I was telling Kamila that every time I do an interview, I just keep going, oh man, this podcast is so good. These interviews are so good. It's really what keeps me going. It's because the interviews are great. The artists are so interesting and different and cool, and it's just such a positive vibe. Really great. So I guess that's about it. I could do the synesthesia word of the week. I haven't done that in a while. This is a pretty good one. Well, is it? I was just thinking Francis. The name Francis definitely tastes like French toast. Like it's a strong one. But, Francis, French toast kind of sounds the same. So I don't like to mention ones that sound similar because that's kind of, I don't know. I like the weird ones that have no connection, they don't sound alike or anything. Anyway, well, that's what I did for today. So anyway, this interview's awesome. Camila's awesome. I can't talk. And that's it. So check it out. Hope you like it. And thank you for listening. What's up, Kamila? Kamila. I was thinking it was Camilla. I'm sure you probably get that all the time, right? I don't
correct people anymore because it doesn't really matter. It's fine.
Because there's only one L, so it makes sense, Camila. You know, but you hear Kamila. It doesn't.
My own son doesn't know how to pronounce my name, so don't feel bad. My son's like Camellia. I'm like, oh, jeez. I've already gone over the phonics, the Kamila with him, and he just. I think he's kind of doing it on purpose.
Yeah, he's probably just. He's probably just messing with you. Okay, Before we get to anything, You have one of the craziest last names, other than like Stan Dark Art. I still don't know. I can't remember Stan's last name.
Okay.
Tell me how to pronounce your name, please.
So it's Polish, so the L is supposed to sound like a W. So it's Mlynarczyk.
Mlynarczyk.
Perfect. You're good. Yeah.
I'm gonna phonetically.
It's like a whole different letter that it's not here in the English language. So plus I don't even put the little weird thing on it because then people would be like,
get even more confused.
Right.
Okay, I wrote that down for when I do the intro so I can pronounce it. Mlynarczyk. Mlynarczyk.
Yeah,
okay.
Perfect.
Yeah,
it's better than most people, even when they practice it.
Okay, good. It's a tough one. Okay, so thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I've been a fan for a long time. You've been in shows I've curated, and you're just repping the dark art lifestyle with your art. You're really not shying away from being a dark artist.
Sorry.
No, it's great. It's like
I can't do anything but. So.
Yeah. It seems like that's just who you are. You're all in, and I love that. Because I'm all in.
I know.
But what's interesting though is that you have like two. You've got the dolls, and then you've got the kind of I don't know, illustration. I don't know what you'd call it. Fine art painting, illustration.
They're not really fine art. They're still, I don't even know what to call it either because it's always evolving.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the dolls happened. I never had sculpted before until I was in my 20s.
Wow.
It was like a product of art school. Like I hated art school so much that I was so neurotic about drawing and doing anything or painting or doing anything that I was like, okay, I quit being an artist.
Wow.
And I didn't draw after that for like years. But I found art dolls online, only online. I've never seen one in real life. So I kind of got really obsessive about that. So, because I was always obsessive about drawing my whole life, so I had to replace it with something else. And
Okay.
Dolls, yeah.
We're getting too far ahead here. I want to hear. No, it's okay. This is all fascinating. So I just want to kind of go back to the beginning before we get up to the part where you hated art school, because I'm definitely interested in hearing that. Yeah. So, what? I'm guessing you were an art kid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was an art baby. I was like every single memory I've had in my life. Like I feel like every memory, if you were kind of doing a movie about it, it would be like a kid looking up from a page.
Right.
Like, I was always drawing at every kind of significant point in my life.
Okay. Yes, I assumed so, but you never know. Yeah. There's a few people that have been on that like, I didn't start until I was, 18 or 19. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, I find that crazy too.
Yeah, right. And some pretty good artists, amazing artists have started late too. It just, you never know. But, so where were you born? I
was born in Poland.
Oh, okay.
I spent my first 3.5 years in Poland. And then I immigrated to Canada with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom had already gone a year ahead of time
mm-hmm.
But she ended up in Chicago for some. I think all Polish people, when they immigrant, magically end up in Chicago.
Yeah.
It's for some reason.
Yeah, there's like a big Polish community in Chicago, right?
It's big. Yeah, it is. It's like going to Poland in the United States there. So we were separated for about a year, and I came to Canada, and we lived in my aunt's basement for a while my dad was kind of working.
Wow.
Kind of trying to save up money. And like I said with the memories, I remember the day I was supposed to see my mom again for the first time. I remember drawing and thinking, planning about how I'm going to greet her. But I was drawing. So I think by that time it was already a coping mechanism for stuff.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that must have been hard to not see your mom for a year at that young age.
Yeah, I think it happened to a lot of people immigrating to different countries. They usually have one parent go and establish themselves a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, really hard. And it, and she feels bad about it too now, up until now. But,
yeah, but they're trying to give you a better. yeah, better life. There's a price to be paid. I'm sure. I'm sure staying in Poland would have been, probably more traumatizing.
Where I was from, it's a little town called Demino. It's in the south of Poland, and there's like 600 people
Wow.
there total. We didn't have phone lines at that point. You had to go to the post office. Even when I returned at age 11 from Canada, we still didn't have phone lines. You had to go to the post office. So
Wow.
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was in the 90s.
Wow.
So but fuck nowhere.
Yeah.
I always think that because we were like in the south of Poland, but close to the mountainous region, so I feel like I'm like we're the mountain people, so I feel like I'm the Appalachian, Appalachian.
Oh, right.
Like
right.
Really, very just back in time. Like it felt like the 70s.
Yeah.
When it was there or 80s.
Yeah, I remember I went to South Africa I worked for a few weeks there, and we were in Johannesburg, and it was like oh, I remember this is what it was like at San Pedro in 1971. Yes. That's what it reminded me of. Everything was just the part. Maybe it's the part of it just seemed like everything was back 30 years ago.
And not only like it's everything, it's the clothes.
Right.
Like people taking photographs, and the photographs all of a sudden look old, like black and white. All my photographs, they look like from when I was a baby. I look like I was born in the 60s, but I was born in 83.
Oh, wow. What a trip.
Yeah.
What a trip.
Yeah.
Poland went through all kinds of has been through a lot of crazy shit too.
It's a weird country.
Yeah.
It's not doing so well right now.
Right. It's
I
been
don't know that much about it, but I just know that, policies. It's like the Texas civil right too.
Right.
Like, they're stepping on women's abortion rights there and everything.
Right. Yeah.
Catholic Church reigns supreme. Like I think 99.9999% of people are Catholic there.
Wow. What a trip. You hear stuff like that, and then Beksinski makes a lot of sense.
I know. And every time, like, if we have relatives and they see my art, they're so disturbed. And I'm like, dude, like, you guys made the coolest dark artists. Like, some of the coolest people are from there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I forget her last name, but Alexandra, I'm sure you know her. Like, Alexandra, I forget her last name. W starts with W, but she does, like, these really fucked up, like paintings.
I don't think I know of a female artist from Poland. You're going to have to send me a link. I know the... It's hard to remember those names for me because
I know, even for me.
Okay, good. That makes me feel better. But there's there's like that whole Polish poster artist scene.
I love
unbelievable.
It's
like so that's kind of like when I was calling your stuff like illustrations. I don't really believe in the line between illustration and fine art anymore. It's like because your stuff kind of a little bit reminds you of, it's got an Edward Gorey vibe, a little teeny bit. And he was considered an illustrator, but I don't see his stuff as to me, it's just art. It's just art.
It's like downplaying. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a dumb categorization thing. But anyway, my point was, there's I know there was a big one in the Polish, poster scene that was amazing. And I can't think of his name. He did that weird, there's one with like a hand coming up on a face, and it's like red. And the other guy I know that's really great, that's contemporary now, is Zawadski, Darius Zawadski. He's amazing. So it's such a trip that it says something about the country. I think that you'd have the most amazing dark artists coming from there. Really,
I had like a weird conversation one time with my mom. Sorry, I'm coughing.
It's okay.
I had a weird conversation with my mom one time. We were kind of alone for the first time. She was in the hospital. She had some surgery. I'm not usually alone with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's always family members around, and it's kind of like all of a sudden we're real for a second. And she was like, "I'm glad you didn't stay in Poland because you would have been like dragged in front of the church and like burned as a witch."
Right, yeah.
She knew. But it's like that's the place though that made me, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's such a place where everyone expects you to be so normal, but it's so fucked up. Like
right.
Up there.
Yeah. It's also like it's in your genetics. You know, it's like in your DNA. Just going back for this whole kind of culture, it's a trip.
It is.
But
the church we had in that, I'm sorry to,
no.
the church we had, because I mentioned the church we had in that village has actually become like a big landmark there nowadays. So it's a tourist place. But it was St. Michael's, but it was created in the 16th century.
Wow.
And that's where that's where my parents got married.
Wow.
That's where I was baptized. Against the woo.
It's so, you know, it's...
And it's like all wooden and beautifully painted.
Right.
And it just feels like you're going back even further in time.
Right.
It feels like you're going back like 200 or 300 years in time when you're there, because it's all candlelight. It's all wood.
But
so beautifully decorated.
Yeah.
And then all the ladies come to church every day, all the old ladies, and they're just like, they have this, like, they get to this like weird cultish pitch in their voice when they're singing, and it just feels like you're in an LSD trip.
Right.
Church.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I love that. You know, I think it's like if you don't have to, if you're not forced to live there and forced to live that life, you can kind of see it, you can appreciate it for what it is, you know, separate from it. I think it's, if you have a totally different relationship, if it's something that's part of where you live and part of kind of what you're forced to do, and you're getting shit from these people, it's a totally different story than just seeing it like, I don't know, just this kind of historical, crazy old, I mean, because that's, you know, the United States, and I don't even know how old really Canada is. How old is Canada?
It's probably...
It's like...
Not a couple years.
Yeah, like we don't even, you know, we don't have that kind of history here. We don't have that kind of like, you know, stuff that goes back that far. So it's really interesting. That's why one of the things I love about Europe is just all that old, crazy old stuff. But anyway, so okay, so at what point did you, you know, you're a monster girl. I mean, when you're all monsters all the time. Again, I love that about you. I think it's great. I also love that you have such a great sense of humor, because so often, you know, it's kind of a cliche for dark artists to be serious about everything, and I love the dark stuff that has a sense of humor. I think they totally go great together. Dark art and humor goes so well together. So, of course, there's all kinds of different, you know, you can be serious, you can be funny, but I love that you always have a sense of humor in your stuff. So, like, where did the monsters come from for you, and when did that start happening, or was it always there? Or?
It was always there. It was all like, I've always been drawn to, you know, scary movies all my life. As a kid, I watched The Exorcism on the kitchen counter when I was like 6 or 7.
Wow.
But I watched it with my mom. She let me.
Wow.
But at the same time, she's like, "You shouldn't be watching this. I shouldn't let you do this. Don't do this. Don't watch any more scary movies." But she's like introducing me to them. So I think secretly she was into it, but she kind of was so proper that she didn't want to admit it to me.
Yeah, she sounds cool.
She does. She's cool. Yeah, she got much cooler when I moved out.
Oh, right.
Right? Because then it's, you know, everyone's not up for butt, you know.
Yeah.
But I was always drawn to horror monsters. I never thought of them as monsters. They were always like my favorite characters, and how it seemed more human.
Right. I could always relate to them more. Like, I always felt sorry for them.
Oh, of course.
You know?
I always feel like it's always the people around the monsters that were more monstrous than anybody else. So
yeah,
I was really sympathetic, and I related so much more to the monsters as a person than anything else, because I didn't really fit in. So I always just kind of had a personal view of myself as like, you know.
Yeah, like we all do. I think that's another common thread with a lot of us, I think, is that we all always felt like we didn't fit in and the outsiders. So it makes sense. It makes sense that we would identify with the monsters.
And everyone else seems so confident that they're okay. And like, I feel like dark artists or people that kind of associate themselves more with monsters are more like always looking in and seeing where they can improve, and like how they're like, what's bad about them, and maybe dwelling on it a little bit too much, but it makes them, I don't know, makes them more interesting and kind people.
Yeah, I agree. I like I've been saying for so long. I wish some like psychologists would really study this, because it's such it's you know, someone was Randall Perkins, who's a big supporter of the podcast. He always helps out and tell you know, gives me information of people who have joined the Patreon. Like every week, he gives me the list of the last person I read, and he was like, You don't have to keep saying that the dark artists are such cool people. We already know, you know, but it still strikes me that everyone's so nice. To me, it's just
everybody else knows though. Like I don't know, people outside of the community, they kind of are scared a little bit.
Yeah, but it's like I said it a million times. Sorry, Randall, I'm saying it again. I'm going to do it. It's overwhelmingly lopsided in the sense that 99% of them are just so kind-hearted, the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. You know, maybe they're shy. They might come across as standoffish at times because many of us are so shy. But as far as like kind-hearted people, you won't find a more kind-hearted group of people. And I found this even in the tattoo industry too. A lot of these guys doing, you know, really dark, creepy tattoos are just the nicest people. And there's something about, you know, this kind of catharsis. We're able to get this thing out of us, or somehow like make friends with this.
I think it's, you hit it right on the head there. It's catharsis.
Yeah. And it's like,
that's how I do all of my art. It's catharsis.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know?
Right. Yeah. It feels good to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this transformational thing where you're, I don't know. It's like I have theories about it, but I can't put my finger, like I can't definitely say, oh, it's this for sure. Like I was on an interview a few days ago on another podcast, and they I forgot what the question was, and I said that I was at a bad time in my life. I felt like the monsters were like something that I could relate to, and I was able to kind of like put them on paper and then gain a sense of mastery. Like they weren't scary to me because I created them, and so it was like this coping mechanism for these feelings I was having. And so now I feel like I'm kind of honoring those creatures by painting them, because they were there for me when I needed them when I was little. And it was one of those things like, yeah, that's definitely one of the aspects of dark art for me, and I think probably for a lot of people. But it's not like I thought, how am I going to honor this thing that was there for me when I was a kid? I know, I'll paint their pictures. Not at all. It's like after the fact, you just we go on instinct and do what we do, and then try and figure out why the hell we're doing it. And there's like not one reason. There's all these different reasons, it seems like, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's that way for you as well.
Same for me, like you said it really well about honoring, but you know, I didn't set out to honor them. I didn't set out to kind of make monsters. In fact, I was resisting it for a long time. I was trying to be a little bit more normal.
Really?
In high school, especially, and in art, it never worked though, because it would always, like maybe it wasn't monsters in high school and college or university or whatever the hell that was. It wasn't monsters, but it was some weird shit always. There's always something I would do, and people were like, "Oh,
I'm trying to be normal."
I'm trying to be normal, but it's like
it's just not working.
Like I would take life classes and I'd try really hard. I'm like, I'm going to be an artist for real. And like, oh, amazing, scary caricature. That was like the real truth.
I kind of went through a phase when I was younger. Like, let's see, it was monsters, but I used to like get influenced by Mad Magazine. Do you know Mad Magazine? Yeah, because there was a lot of great characters. So I'd kind of do some funny stuff, like a strong man lifting weights, or like some goofy, weird guy smoking a cigarette or whatever. And then I did like motorcycles and army guys fighting each other, just kind of typical kid stuff. But the one I just would always go back to the monsters, and to the point where it's like by the time I was in high school, it was by the time I was 12, it was makeup effects. I was like, oh, I'm going to learn makeup effects and sculpting, and then it was sort of became my identity. Like everyone kind of knew I was the monster kid. So I at some point it just kind of took over. But the only normal thing I really ever drew was animals, because my mom got me a set of rapidograph pens, pen and ink, and so I started getting into pen and ink, and for birthday gifts and stuff, I would paint like a realistic fox or a bird or cats, because I loved animals too. So it was like either monsters or animals were the only two. It's like yeah, it's like, and animals were to me kind of like the normal thing I could do when I was growing up. But so okay, so let's hear this art school experience, because it doesn't sound like it was very good.
It's a blur. Like I feel like I got into a car accident and I forgot exactly what happened. I don't remember anybody's name.
Wow.
I don't remember a single professor's name. I don't know what was going on with me. I think I just like slipped into some weird apathy thing. I didn't like being told what to do. I didn't like the art that they were making, kind of like...
Where'd you go to school? Do you remember the name?
It's Ontario College of Art and Design.
Okay.
In Toronto.
Okay.
I mean, I don't speak for... I'm sure people had great experiences there, but not me.
Right.
And when I had gone, like you couldn't... Like it was very narrow, the streams. Like you either go into design or you go into fine art.
Okay.
But I want... Like, that's silly, because I want to do design with fine art. Like,
right.
I want to be an illustrator, but like do it with fine art.
Right.
I want to take a sculpture class. I want to learn about textiles. I want to learn about all this. Mm-hmm. But instead, they had me like drawing, what was it? Building storefronts, building technical drawings, and there was some life classes. But
were you disappointed?
So disappointed.
When you got there, you're like, I imagine maybe you were excited about it, and then when you got there, then it was like,
let me in. I was like, wow, somebody let me in here. And then slowly over the course of 3 or 4 years, was it 3 years or 4? I don't even remember. I was just so disheartened, and it just got narrower every year. It got narrower, and I wanted to learn other things, but you couldn't take those classes if you were in the design stream.
That's so stupid.
It was supremely stupid, and I graduated with a degree of design, whatever that means, that I couldn't use. I didn't even take anything useful. I was in illustration, but we barely did illustration. I couldn't actually design anything because I wasn't actually a graphic designer, because I wasn't really into that.
Right.
I just didn't like people telling me what to do. I also was commuting back and forth from my parents' house to Toronto, because I lived in Mississauga, which is 2 cities away, 1.5 cities away, something like that.
Mm.
It just kind of killed my soul.
Wow.
I would just get worse and worse. But I was thinking I would pass, but it felt like the less effort I would put into a project, the better grade I got. And then what's happening? I don't know. So,
wow.
By the end of it, I didn't just touching, drawing made me so neurotic and overthinking, and I always thought I was doing something wrong. And I also wasn't doing what I love to do. I wasn't drawing monsters. I wasn't drawing anything really funny or related or anything like that. I was just, I just wasn't ready either. I don't think I was ready at that age to go to art school.
Oh, yeah. No, I just
better learning by myself.
Yeah, so some people are. I mean, I'm self-taught pretty much. Some people are just better at being self-taught, I think. Some people it's just, not most people, but some people. I took some life drawing classes, on, community classes, community college classes. You could just pay and go. And those were great, but, it was on my own, kind of on my own. I didn't have to follow a curriculum. It was just take this class but damn it. I had a good point. I had a really good point.
I lose points all the time. Don't worry, it'll come.
Well, you know, I do just about every episode. If I don't lose my train of thought on an episode, it's a rare occurrence. Oh, I was going to say, you know, I bet if you had like one really good teacher that took an interest in you and saw your what you really wanted to do and kind of was like, you know what, this stuff is going to, if you do it right, this stuff can serve what you want to do. Learning about this stuff, you can apply it to the stuff you're really passionate about, instead of just like, this is how you are an art. This is what you need to know to be an artist and do this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Like if I had a great mentor, it would be completely different.
Right.
I would feel like I wanted to be there.
Right.
It also felt like every class I took, you just had to the instructor would show you their work, and you basically the motto for everyone was kind of like, just do what he does, and then you get a good grade.
Yeah, that's not good.
I don't know what that is, but that's like narcissism. That's not art.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So okay, now we are back to where we started in the beginning, where you were saying after school you got you got really bummed. So tell me about that. Once you got out of school, what happened there?
Oh, I decided to work at a grocery store. Then I was so depressed. It was the worst time ever. Yeah, and my manager looked like a giant baby man. Anyway, I just want to get that in there so he knows, because he's like, we still want to go back there. Okay.
And now look at you, successful artist.
Now it's forever. Baby. I couldn't draw anymore. I gave up. And then, just near maybe the last 4 months of art school, I started looking at all these images on the internet of art dolls. I didn't find the cool ones yet. I found you know, polymer clay. You know, they're still nice, but they're technically beautiful, but they just weren't my style. But I thought maybe I could make it into something mine eventually. Like I saw the monkeys and the fairies and the that kind of stuff, but it was just there's nothing dark to it. There's no grittiness to it.
Right.
So I started doing it, and then just like in that art school class where he's like, oh, crazy caricature, I did the same thing with sculpture. I was going for like nice, but I got grotesque, and I liked it a lot. And I just became obsessed with it. And I think when you're obsessed, you don't know how much you suck at the beginning. It's like your brain is trying to save you just so that you can just follow your passion and be amazing and childlike and like passionate about it and want to do it every single day, all day. So that was me. I was really bad for a while, and then I started kind of getting into my groove.
I bet you it's not as bad as you're saying. I bet you it's not as bad as you're saying.
Okay.
You see.
I have pictures of the bad ones, so we'll just not know. I had never sculpted at that point either.
Right,
so
right.
It was like I was also learning how to sculpt.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. So how did you go about learning to do that? Because was there resources online?
Yeah, all online, and it was great because I didn't have to leave the house. I just looked through like many tutorials and kind of cobbled together kind of like a rough estimate in my head about how to do things. Mm-hmm. And I was wrong a lot of the time, and then I learned, especially when you're sculpting, things fall. You don't know how to bake things properly.
Yeah, there's so many things that can go wrong when it comes to sculpture and molds. I don't know if you ever got into molds or anything, but that's like a whole other...
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
That wasn't even in my...
Right.
thing yet, in my vision yet, because that was
You're doing like Sculpey and Fimo and all that sort of thing?
I was using first Super Sculpey, and then the one I started using, forget the name of. Yeah, and then I started, properly reinforcing them with wire, and I got the hang of it, and I started using epoxy as well, just to reinforce things. Mm-hmm. And also it was a great, like all of a sudden, I had a great outlet for all my stupid fun facts in my head of like weird stuff, like weird historical stuff. Because I was always like, one of my passions always is just like reading or strange books. Like I was always, since I was little, I was always collecting strange books. Mm-hmm.
Me too.
And I would always read all these cool stories about, like, just like, witches, or like, especially Catholic Church stuff. Like there's one thing I read about where it was like, women really wanted to commit suicide. Some women really wanted to commit suicide in like the 16 and 1700s, but it was a mortal sin. So they couldn't kill themselves. They would go to hell, right?
Right.
Nobody could forgive them.
Right.
But if you murdered someone, it's not a mortal sin because you can go to confession and ask for forgiveness. Right. And then the ideal thing to murder in their heads, I'm not saying I would, but in their heads was a baby, right? Because babies are like, they don't have to suffer.
Right.
Go back to
they get a free pass.
Yeah. So there's all of a sudden like all these women killing babies and then going to confession.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they would ask for forgiveness. They would be forgiven, of course, and then they would be put to death. So they would still die.
Oh my God!
You know what you want.
Right. Oh, so that's such a great example of how like a good maybe probably a good intention maybe a long time ago turns out to be way worse. You know, who knows if it was a good intention though? You got to wonder.
It was something. So I had all these weird stories in my head. So I just kind of started applying them. I started writing little stories for some of my sculptures, or some of them weren't even stories. They were just kind of like, it was symbolic. Like I would do some sculptures of like women with black hands, and black hands represented their like sin. That's what they did. Like just kind of,
right. I
started kind of getting the hang of, using my all my stuff in my head and getting it out there and using it for something creative. So that was really fun. I enjoyed that. That was like a whirlwind of like 7 or 8 years of sculpting.
Yeah, it seemed like you were cranking on that stuff, really into it.
I was younger. I was in my 20s.
So were you how quickly were you able to turn it into a living?
Oh, no. Oh, you think no living. Not yet. No.
Really?
No, not with the dolls. I mean, I did okay-ish, but I would just have to exhaust myself.
Right.
And as soon as I got good enough to actually make it a living, I stopped doing it. And then people would be like, I think people like them too much. And I was like, that doesn't sit right with me. Or people were like, I knew how to make money. I knew what to do.
Uh-huh.
That would, like, get me the most money. And then all of a sudden, it's like, I don't want to do that to get the money. Like, I want to do it for a purpose. I want to do it for a reason. I want to like it.
Yeah.
So that was, like, a fast track of, like, how not to enjoy what you do anymore.
Yeah, there's a like a balance you have to strike, I think, to make money and still love what you're doing. Because once it becomes a money making thing, it's hard. It's like there's expectations put on you, and there's like it relies less on inspiration, and you have to kind of like make the inspiration come, or you have to deal with not having the inspiration and stressing about the money. But it's like I've always
I know you have to do, like, I know you have to.
Yeah. I made that.
And I'm slowly realizing that now in my late age. For a while.
Yeah, it's like, to me, it was sort of like, I didn't start even make the decision to paint till I was 33. So it was kind of like, okay, I've well established in my career. I've got to make this big career move. So it was like, I can't even afford to consider just doing it for fun. It's like or just for pure enjoyment. I have to sort of like turn that part of my brain off when I'm working, and then like have my business hat, like Gabe Leonard puts it, put on your business hat for business stuff, and then you put on the art hat for art, and you kind of keep them separate, because once you start trying to create something that's going to sell, like coming up, I tried a few times, like, oh, this will probably sell, just because you're trying to figure out what the hell you're doing, and it never worked. It never worked. It was always the things that sold well were like, could have been you know, all it just was random. Is like some people like this one thing for some reason. They're all cool to me. I just do what I think is cool, and hopefully they sell. You know.
I also think that people are drawn to something. I think people are drawn to something that it's clear that it was done with passion and love.
I agree.
There's full intensity.
Totally.
And sometimes that doesn't happen once you start cranking them out.
Right. That's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. It's that authenticity, and that, you know, it's weird. It's like an energy thing. It's like people can sense it on this other level if you're really into it.
It's so weird because I have all these like strange superstitions in my head. I'm not even like, I don't even believe in anything really, but like I still have these strange little superstitions, you know. But I feel like if I do something, if I make something and then I hold it back and I don't present it when it's made, it doesn't have the same energy. Like people can feel when I make it. I know that doesn't make sense. And
it makes, you know what? It makes sense to me. I'm into weird shit, so I'm into all that energy stuff. So
my philosophy has always been I want to believe, like by X-Files. Like
right.
Maybe I don't believe in that many things, maybe, but I really want to.
Right.
And I'll suspend my disbelief if it's like really cool.
Right.
I'll be like, sure, I believe that. That's awesome enough and creepy enough and weird enough that I want to.
Right. So I mean, but again, though, that's like you're talking about. You feel like if you hold it back, you're not going to get that same. They're not going to pick up on that energy.
Okay.
I think that's kind of, you know, that might be a real thing. Just like the way that people can sense the passion and stuff. That's not like a tangible thing. That's like a something that's you can't put your finger on it. It's like. It's a weird energy. Energy is even a bad way to describe it because energy is not really a good. But that's all we got in the human language. It's something else. It's some intangible, weird thing. You know.
People don't know how they know, but they know.
Yeah.
Just like my dog knows that I have a pill in my hand, right?
Right.
When you want to kill a pill, they run away, and you're like, "I'm trying to act casual."
Yeah.
that exact same thing. It's just they just know. People just know we're still animals anyway. So.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's a weird, you know, there's a whole other thing going on all the time, I think. But, it's like half the time, I had a dog one time that whenever I wanted to take a picture, my wife or I, whenever we wanted to take a picture, we'd pull out the phone to take a picture. He would go right in front of us and sit down and look at us. Like he would pose for the picture every time. It was so weird. It's like, how would you possibly? It was so strange. It's like, yeah. Anyway,
that's a good dog. That's a good dog. My current dog is the opposite. As soon as he's cute and I want to take a picture of him, he turns away.
Yeah. So they do that too. They do that too. So okay, you establish yourself with these dolls, and then you stopped making them.
And then I stopped, and I have so many people are still like, when are you going to go back to doll making? And I think I will. Yeah. Because when I did doll making, and then I went back to drawing or whatever I was doing, it really helped me. I didn't know I was helping myself in the long run by sculpting and doing all that because it helped my work later on, my illustrating or drawing or painting or work. Yep. So I think I'm doing something now with my drawing that I think is going to help me when I start sculpting again. And I don't even know what I'm going to do, but I think it's going to be more interesting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's right. I think you're doing the right thing by following your creative impulse. I think that's, as you know, especially artists like us that are super, I think, intuitive, you know, like, just not, you know, we don't have this grand scheme, and I do know a lot of artists that are very like logical and planned out and stuff, which is cool. It's like, you know, I'm not that way. It sounds like you're not that way. It's like, but I think that as long as we follow what the creative impulse, where it leads us, it will lead us to a good, or where we need to be. It'll lead us on the correct path.
I think so too.
I think when you start second guessing that and start going, what's going to sell? you know what, and start thinking, and it's like it completely trips the whole thing up.
Yeah, I switched from being neurotic about drawing to being neurotic about sculpting, so that's why I went back to drawing, you know.
Right.
I can't, you know, doubting myself and in my head and being so negative all the time to myself. So I kind of am anyway, but at least the drawing part exercises that out of my head.
Right.
Drawing, the sculpting just wasn't helping me anymore. This is all just therapy for me. Like art, it's just
Right.
It's
Yeah.
all like it's just all therapy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the magical, amazing things about art is that it functions. It has so many functions, but it really is like a therapeutic thing. You know, it's a lot of us would be crazy people. We're already crazy enough, but like without the art, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine either. I was also supposed to say something, and I forgot.
Yeah, welcome to the club. So okay, so when you let's talk about your drawing stuff. What did you? How did that? You stopped the sculpture and you kind of you just started.
And then I had to remember how to draw again, and I had to like figure it out again because you know I didn't really have a style, you know, the way I draw now.
So you had a career. You've gotten well known with the dolls, and you had like a career there.
Yeah.
And then, but you were like, oh, I haven't really figured out my drawing thing. Like you hadn't totally established your drawing style at that point.
No. You're jumping a little prematurely.
That's great.
Like I started drawing a little bit, like a month or a couple months before I stopped sculpting. I started drawing a little bit more. I thought, hey, maybe I should make plans for sculptures or something. But that was just my brain tricking me into drawing again, and I wasn't really making plans. I was just, you know, moving my hand again and getting into it again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really always all my whole life. I'm really into gesture drawing. Like that's my one thing I came out of school. I love the gesture. I like the gesture, and just like a really solid, confident, interesting line is so attractive. It just draws people's work, right? So I started doing stuff like that. Oh, it's much harder to talk about the drawing than the sculpting.
Why is that?
It's so personal.
Really? More than the dolls?
So much more than the dolls.
Wow.
So much more than the dolls. The drawing was so personal because I think I was like, so I stopped sculpting too because I was getting older and I couldn't stay up all night and I was just getting tired. I was like burnt out. Probably. Yeah. I was getting tired because I was just like cranking them out like crazy for 7 years.
Right.
And I just got tired and then like I started having more depression and anxiety, and there's things in my family going on that were kind of going wrong. You know, and then I started kind of using the drawing to work that stuff out.
Okay.
And I was depressed today, and I didn't draw. I felt worse, but if I drew, I felt better. So that's the kind of how it started going. And then I kind of used the monsters and I started the monsters with the dolls, but then it went back to the drawing, and I started using the monsters kind of like, I don't know how to even say it, like symbols, or they were just like a familiar visual language for me to express my life without it being so personal that it was like a real drawing of me in a room.
Right. Yeah.
It started to be kind of symbolic of something else.
Right.
But people didn't know that. So I think it was embarrassing as possible.
Right.
Right.
That's cool. Yeah, that makes total sense. Before we get into the drawings, I have to back up. I'm sorry. I do need to mention the thing about your dolls, aside from the fact that they're fucked up in a great way, you know, just love your doll work is so good. I mean, they're like, at the time when your dolls were around, I would buy them if I didn't have the money at the time.
I totally know. I don't have the money for it.
Yeah, I can't.
Buy anything I actually like.
Yeah. Like, you know, that's the thing we always say. It's like you can't afford to buy our own art. But But if I saw something like that and I had the money to buy it, I would totally buy that. I would buy your dolls.
Are fucked up millionaires and billionaires,
I know. Yeah, we're slowly but surely we're finding them here and there. They're popping out of the woodworks. You'll see. Especially there's going to be a bunch of new rich people from cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in the next year, and they're going to be buying art. But anyway, I loved that. I don't know. I always felt like your techniques, for your dolls were really advanced compared to a lot of doll makers. Like it felt like you came from the makeup effects world, the way you painted with washes and really subtle. I don't know, the costuming and everything just felt very. I don't know. I thought your technique was really sharp. That's one thing I always noticed with your stuff. Is like they're well painted and just like I don't know. They looked old and aged. It's like they really were great.
I was very obsessive. Like I wouldn't stop when normal people would stop, and then I didn't know how to sew. Like I still don't even know really how to sew at all. But I learned how to sew for my dolls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I learned how to bead for my dolls. I didn't really even know how to paint properly. I learned how to paint properly for my dolls, and now I can paint like other things. Which
Right.
Is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put a lot of love and care into them.
They're so good. They're just amazing. I mean, I'm just looking.
I went to Las Vegas for a doll convention. Like the first couple of years, I started doing dolls. And that was the first time I actually saw art dolls in person other than my own. I went to this NIADA convention. It was like the National Institute of Art Dolls of America.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there with my dolls to like get them critiqued. And they were really bad. So okay, like I was kind of finding myself.
Okay.
And then I got critiqued, and everyone was like, everyone's dolls were very like proper and beautiful, and like art dolls, like clowns with balls, beautiful,
right.
but very like nice. But then people would walk up to me and like whisper to me like, "Oh, I love your dolls." Like, but I love them, and I got to pick a bunch of people's brains there that were actually like really really good at them, and that's where I learned how to distress material.
Oh, okay.
You can paint with white paint, and you got some dust on a piece of fabric and on your ghost, and there you go. It's more of a ghost than before. So I kind of learned a lot there, and they also gave me some really good advice because I was sewing really badly, and the ladies they all looked like they lived in fabric stores, and they looked like they knew how to sew and made their own curtains and shit. Mm-hmm. And they were like, okay, you either have to get really good at sewing, or you just have to be bad consistently, right? Like if you're gonna like sew badly, make it consistent so it's like a style.
You're right.
So I just was like, okay, I choose bad, and
I choose bad.
Like it just, and then it just worked on it. I don't know what my point was here, but like I feel like I learned a lot there.
No, that's why I was gonna ask you is sort of, but you already answered it. I was gonna ask you where did you learn all these kind of advanced painting techniques? And it's like a lot of time people that come from the makeup effects industry, I notice when they do stuff like this, it's like I can usually tell because there are certain techniques that are just common that we use that you would only learn in the industry. Probably it's not true now with the internet and YouTube and all that, I guess. But so that's what I was saying. It's like it seemed like you had that secret knowledge that most people wouldn't have, that you don't really see in a lot of stuff like this. So
I also credit my visual aesthetic with a lot of like old European cartoons I used to watch when I was little. And the style was so different. It was just soft, and there's washes on the cartoon.
Right.
Just like a soft look. I can't describe it. It was just soft. It felt soft, and I liked that.
Yeah.
Like the bane of my existence was doing eyebrows. on a doll. I'm like, I refuse to do eyebrows. I will do I will do a suggestion
Right.
of an eyebrow by going up with the shadow and then stopping, but I'm not going to do eyebrows.
Right.
So it's just kind of that aesthetic of like soft. I want it to be soft. I want it to be beautiful. Like I want it to be as beautiful as something that was meant to be beautiful,
right,
on something that looks like it's decaying and dying.
That's me too with my paintings. That's I feel like it's like I'm always.
That's why I love for art. That's
right. I think we have a similar aesthetic in that way. I think because that's why I figure like even if you don't like my art subject matter, you have to at least appreciate the fact that it's painted well, and I try and make it beautiful on its own. If you kind of like take out what it is and take out the blood, what blood symbolizes and stuff like that, just as a painting itself, if you're able to almost look at it as an abstract painting, that you should be able to appreciate it. So that's kind of like I try and like subvert the whole thing by doing monsters and stuff by painting it well done.
You're trying to fool people that
right.
wouldn't otherwise.
Exactly.
I get that.
I'm so glad that you're going to go back to it, though, because I'm just looking through while we're talking. And it's like the dolls are so special. They're really so good. They're so.
And it's so nice to hold them.
Yeah, right. I know.
Right. That's what I love. That's why it blew my mind when I first started sculpting. Like, oh my God, I can actually hold this.
Right.
Like my child, my art child.
Yeah, yeah. And the little ones are so cute. The ones like the little tiny ones.
Those are fun. The little ones was kind of how I worked out what I wanted to do with big ones because they didn't take as much time.
Oh yeah, like a study almost. Yeah. That's great. Anyway, yeah. So that's I feel like when you come back to these, you're just gonna make some amazingly kick-ass stuff.
When I come back to them, I want it to be not just a story, but more personal.
Right. So you're going to incorporate more of the stuff you're doing with illustration maybe into the doll work?
Oh no, I think so. Like I said, I have no plans. So I'm just going to see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what one of my favorite bands is No Means No, and they're Canadian. They're from Victoria, British Columbia. And I remember hearing in an interview, he's like, we never planned anything. And they got successful for a punk band. They were like, we never made any plans. It's like, we just kind of went with it. And
that's like how for your conjoined shows, I never had a plan, and I always waited for the last minute, and then I had to pay like $150 shipping. It was brilliant. It was like, it was magic. I was like, okay. I would start making something and I wouldn't know what I'm doing, and then all of a sudden it worked out, and it would be like one of my best pieces of the year. At the end of the year for a conjoined show that I was excited about, but then put off because I'm lazy.
Right? Yeah. Well, this. It's weird that you say that because every year conjoined was like that for the show itself. It was like It was like Copper's a gallery that's busting its ass just like we all are, having to bring the money, and they're not like some super elite, cash reserves. They don't have to, they're hustling all the time, just like artists are. And so inevitably the show would, we'd start getting ready for it later and later. We wouldn't ask people in enough time and all that. You know how it is, because you're one of them. But it was like a mess. It'd be the night before the show, nothing set up, all these sculptures, boxes everywhere. And then like somehow Erica would just she sets everything up. It would just come together like magic in the last few hours. It was like, I'd go to drop my piece off the day before, and it would just be like, oh my God, you're not going to be able to get it in time. And then they would like pull these all-nighters. And then I'd show back up for the show, and it just was like amazing. And every time it was like that. Like, I swear there's like some kind of weird magic energy with that show, because it was always like that. It would always come together.
Creative last minute thing.
Yeah, and it almost comes out better than if you were to plan it.
I'm not a big fan of planning, so you overthink, and then you have too much time to mess things up when you plan.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Overthinking is not good when it comes to fine art, I think, at least for me, and it sounds like for you too.
Every year, like the show, the conjoined show, it's better and better, and then I'd get an invitation later and later. And
I know.
Don't know you anymore.
No, it was just lack of organization. You know, it was never. I know a lot.
But I kind of figured that was the case. But
yeah, it's just all flying by the seat of our pants, and the shows kept getting bigger, and it's just it's just impossible. It's terrible to try and manage it. It kind of turned into a monster that we couldn't really control, and then COVID hit, and then it was just like, and I don't know when we're gonna do it again, but I don't know. Anyway, so okay, now we have to get back to your drawings that you don't want to talk about.
Let's talk about the drawings. We could talk about ghosts instead, or something.
Well, okay. I mean,
no. I'm sorry.
Ghosts are good, but I want to promote. For one thing, I want to promote your Kickstarter, which I'll talk. I have. Let's see. By the time, if you're listening to this, I have already talked about it in the intro, which I haven't recorded yet in this real time. But yeah, you got your Kickstarter going, which is all your drawings and illustrations and stuff, and
it's a super weird book.
Yeah, tell me about it. I love the promo video is amazing. Is that your voice?
It's my voice. It's my voice.
It's so perfect.
And I was so worried because I got I got vocal cord scarring from 2019. I was sick for 5 months.
Oh,
and
no.
my vocal cords got I got a grew a polyp and everything.
Oh shit.
So they're kind of I can't do I used to do a demon voice all the time, so I can't do it now without losing my voice. But I'm I really need no, I'm doing the voice.
It was perfect.
Can only be me.
It was perfect.
And it'll take however long it takes, even one word at a time, but I'll do it. It wasn't so bad. So yeah, that was me, and there was a little puppet going, and
so
I didn't even know what to say. I just wrote that last minute.
Really? Yeah, no, it was perfect. I was like, it's just perfect. So what? Talk about the project, and then then that'll help us talk about your drawings and stuff a little more easily.
We'll go to therapy. Sorry.
How did it come about? How did you decide to do this? And
I didn't, and so the publisher contacted me maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and then I was like, this is a joke, so I didn't respond. I responded, but then I kind of
What, you thought it wasn't a legit publisher or something?
I'd never Google anything. I don't believe anybody.
Right.
And then they contacted me a year later, and they're like, hey, we're still here. Maybe you should just call us. And then I called them, and they had a secretary. I'm like, oh no, I have to take time. There's a secretary involved. I could have had this project already out a year earlier this. And then they wanted to do an art book from me, and I don't know how they even heard of me. And they're like, you're so mysterious. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think all of my dirty laundry is out.
You do seem mysterious, because I usually do a little research on artists that are coming and try and just find interviews or audio podcasts just to get a sense of them. And I couldn't find anything on you.
Oh, good.
So you have that mysterious vibe about you.
I feel like I'm naked all the time, because everything I post is kind of about me,
right,
or what I'm thinking, or a conversation I've had, or a snippet of a thing that I've been involved in. So I feel like if you look at my work, you know me way too much, way too well. But I know that most people wouldn't think that. So they kind of asked me to come in, and I went into Toronto. It's an hour and a half away, and I thought it was just going to be straight up pictures, and that's it. Pictures and a title, and maybe some picture cut titles. Mm-hmm. That's it. They said they wanted to do a conversational interview style thing for a couple. They said a couple of sessions, but it ended up being a year.
Wow.
I told them I hate talking about my work, and I hate talking, but I ended up talking a lot. And then I ended up with a weird little book, and there's the story of how I didn't like art school. My first chapter is suck at art school. There, that's me.
So the format
there's
is
some dolls in there too. Like there's dolls
cool.
at the beginning, and then there's later on there's the drawings. But
so the format is like about you. It's like about your life, sort of.
yeah, so I'm trying to tell everyone not to actually read it. Just look at the pictures. It's not that bad. Like I think they took out a lot of. They told me they were going to edit it, and then they took out a lot of stuff because they said we don't want you to ruin relationships in your life.
Oh wow!
Oh, okay. Thanks. Thanks for saving me from myself.
Wow.
It's a weird book, and like it's 83% funded right now, like as we're talking. But it took a little bit of time because it's weird. Because I have a chapter on poop and snails, and it's weird. It's not like directly dark art. It's more like comedy, but there's going to be dark art in there.
Well, I mean,
separate the two.
Yeah, all of your. I don't think I've ever seen anything that you've drawn that didn't fit into dark art. Just like it's like the nature of it. Even if you're just painting or drawing like a character, a generic character, it's
how to fuck it up.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just not interesting to me.
Right.
It's not like it seems too fake if I don't. It seems too like nice.
Right.
But things aren't really nice, you know. Things are complicated, and you know, there's a dark side to everything, and I hate when you don't see it. Like I hate that.
Right.
That's why I can't get along with I try to talk to people and I try to have normal conversations, but then I always fuck up and I always say something really stupid in there, and then it's like there's the weird parent, there's the weird lady who lives in the neighborhood. So.
Right.
And I can't get away from it, so usually I'm very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Until I'm not, and then it's too much.
I can so relate. I only talk because I have to. I was thinking first thing I was thinking yesterday, last night I was thinking, it's one of those things I've thought a million times, but you know how you think of something and you go, God, that was so true, and I haven't really been thinking about it, but it's so true. I was just thinking, why dark art? Why? And I was thinking, because life is fucking scary.
Yeah.
I mean, that is probably more of a that's maybe one of the biggest common denominators of being alive is scary.
It's like a lot of suffering, and there's like
right
good points, and everyone seems to think that your life should be happy with like a little bit of suffering, but it's like no, your life is just it's like hard,
right?
With a little bit of good parts, points in them, and that's what you should appreciate.
Right.
And when they go away, it's not the end of the world. It's just life. That's just how it goes.
Right.
Once I accepted that, like my whole life changed. It became better.
Right.
Because I wasn't just looking to be happy all the time.
Yeah. It's like it kind of gives you. Yeah. It's. I think that, that's when people, aside from people really having clinical chemical imbalance, depression issues. I mean, that's a reason I think a lot of people are going crazy now, really, partially because we've been sold this idea that, you should be happy. Why aren't you happy? And we're in this like hellhole that's like, there's just so much, it's so fucked up. And it's like, we can't even see it because we're right in the middle of it, and it's like, it's even worse because it seems like it's not on the surface. And that makes it even more fucked up and crazy.
Like every year something happens, and now we're like also we don't just get news from our own tribe or
right.
We get news from the whole fucking world, and something's always going wrong.
Yeah,
like,
right.
How can you be happy? Like, how can you be happy consuming all that, and then they tell you later on, oh, but you should be happy. Like,
right.
No, don't tell me, like, don't bombard me with all this shit and then tell me I should be happy. I'm still trying to process everything.
Right.
It's not going to be done till I'm dead either. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like life gives you enough happiness just to keep you going.
Exactly.
It's like when you hear about people that suddenly get wealthy and they can get anything they want, they end up being miserable because of that, because it's like then life becomes super boring to them because they can have anything, and then it like kind of loses its meaning. So it's almost like you're not meant to be happy all the time.
That's why rich people start doing crazy shit.
Yep.
Right? like, camel sex party or
Totally.
something. I don't know. Like,
Yep.
what are you going to do when you have all that money and you can buy yourself literally anything? You have to buy stuff that you can't buy. You can
Right.
crazy stuff.
Right.
It's good if we're all a little bit poor and then we like get a little bit, parse it out and, parse it out enough just to be a little bit happy, and then everyone's, no one's like crazy. But,
yeah. Obviously what's happening isn't working on a mass scale. But, yeah, so anyway, that I was saying that point about, I was like, man, it's so scary because everyone's going to die and nobody knows what's going to happen when they die. And no, it's like, it's scary. Just being alive is scary, scary, scary. So that's why dark art is so relevant. One reason, but it's a big one. It's everybody's, everybody, there's even animals are kind of, well, they're not really afraid to die because they don't really know, but
when they know, they do, like, they go by themselves. They go
I know.
And hide under a bush or something.
It's so trippy. I know. It's so weird and creepy. But
like, is that what I'm going to do?
I know when I get sick, I don't like to be waited on. I like to just, when I get sick, I just like to be alone. Some people are like,
I want to helping.
Right. Some people like want to be taken care of and tended to and stuff, but I'm more like just leave. I just want to be alone and suffer in silence. But I was gonna say this other thing. What were we saying before I brought up that point about dark art being scary, or life being scary? We were talking about something before that. Damn it. Two in one episode. I remember the other one. Oh well, yeah, it'll come.
When you were talking just now about like death, and you were asking me when did I start being a creepy little girl, right?
Yeah.
I guess maybe really early on, or maybe it was because like I was separated from my parents, and it was kind of like my life was kind of up in the air, and we were kind of poor.
Right.
But I remember going to sleep every night and like making up a scenario in my head that my mom or dad are gonna die, and I would cry myself to sleep.
Oh my God.
Nuggets.
Wow.
And even now, I sometimes do that. I'm like, why are you doing it?
Wow.
Like I remember, I would every summer when I would drive my son to camp, I would like silently cry in the front seat. I'm like, he's gonna drown this year, right? Fuck that. Yeah. I can't stop thinking about it. And I'm so grateful everyone's alive.
Right.
But I can't stop thinking about it. So I guess it's always been in me too. Like when you were talking about death, I worked so hard for that.
Yeah,
I'm always thinking about it. And it's kind of comforting now that I've thought so much about it. Like I've made peace with it.
Right. Yeah.
See, I'll probably die screaming. We'll see.
Yeah, who knows? It's like that's why it's so scary, because you don't know what you're gonna do, what it's gonna be like. But yeah, I can relate to that for sure. But it's like I got I have OCD, like not the good kind where you clean everything. I have the kind that doesn't do any good. It's just like where you just get you overthink things. You can't stop thinking about them. I mean, it's definitely under control now, but I had it really bad in the 90s. But yeah, I'm always like, checking when my granddaughters are sleeping over. I'm always like, I'll check on them to make sure they're breathing. It's like if my wife's asleep sometimes and I get the thought, what if she just died or something? She's perfectly healthy, but I'll like, touch her to make sure she's warm and stuff. It's like, it's all kind of always in the back of my mind. It's a weird thing, but I think it's the
end of your life. So I don't know why everyone's not thinking about it all the time and panicking.
Yeah.
How do we forget?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's part of it too. Yeah, it's like I'm in my 50s, so it's like you can actually I didn't really start feeling that until I was in my 50s. Like I'm like, okay, I remember like, I could be dead easily in 20 years. And 20 years ago, that last 20-year period didn't seem very long. So then it's like, fuck, man.
It's shorter and shorter.
Yeah. And you start going, but But then again, you know, you could live 30 years, 40 years, but nobody knows. Anyway.
I want a little cartoon of a doctor telling, I think I probably heard this somewhere. I don't know if I was, but like sometimes you hear things and you just draw them and you're like, I'm pretty sure I plagiarized this.
Right.
But there's like a doctor telling her, or someone telling her, oh, you only have 40 years left. Right?
Right. Yeah, I know. It's like, anyway, I don't remember what I was going to say, but I do want to talk about your book. So it's like it's mostly drawings. It's mostly illustration stuff. It's stories that you write. That it's based on these kind of. It's in an interview format, or did you write it, or did they write it?
They wrote it, and then I would tweak it.
Oh, cool. That sounds like it would be fun.
Because I can't write anything, I know. But
was it fun?
It's very embarrassing to reread it's just really hard, and I've been trying to read it. Like, I'm trying to read it third time around, and I have some things to change still, but just knowing that I said it right? But I'm sure it's fine.
It's funny, you know, the from the artwork, not having, because have we met before in person at the shows or anything?
One time not in the show. One time in passing at Monster Palooza.
Okay.
Looking outside or something, and I was like,
right. Yeah. Okay. But we haven't like talked or anything. Like we don't really know each other in that, you know, where we hung out or anything. But just from the artwork, the impression I've always gotten was like you like this total confidence in yourself. I know. I know, but this is the impression. This is the impression that it gives me. Like, it's like you're putting it all out there, and you don't give a fuck what anybody says, and it's like really appealing in that way, and it makes me feel like I want to be more like that, because I try and be like that, because I'm not naturally like that. You know, I'm more like you know, where I'm just like, I'm always embarrassed, and I'm always embarrassed. Yeah. It's like a way of life for me as well. But this is part of why I started the podcast, is like, and just putting myself out there, and because I found that the way to deal with it, because I had to start doing it when I started having to go to shows and talk to people, and for my career, you know, if I wanted this art career, I had to do this stuff. And so I've just basically taken this approach that I'm just going to do it and let it go and just move on to the next thing. And it's helped. It's easier for me to not really worry about it. Like, I say stuff all the time on podcasts where I'm just like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. That was stupid, or I pronounced that wrong, or I said this and it probably sounded like I meant that, but I meant this. And I have to just let it go. And so, and in turn, that's helped me become more confident, because it's more about letting it go and not obsessing over it. Because my tendency was to obsess over everything that I do wrong and stupid.
Me too.
So, but anyway,
get on this even podcast, because I was like, what am I going to say? I am horrible most of the time. So, but no,
but the point is, though, with your artwork, though, it's like, as much as you don't feel that way, it's like I feel like you're putting a message out there. At least, okay, this is how it's made me feel. Like I said, it's made me feel like, oh, I don't have to feel uptight about myself. I could say like weird shit and uncomfortable stuff. She's doing it, and it's great. And it's like, but you're probably unintentionally, even, you're just doing your thing. But I think what you're doing is, you're kind of like helping other people to not give a fuck as much, in a way, about that. You know what I mean? Not be ashamed, basically, or embarrassed about things. Just like being themselves, which is really a great thing to be doing. You know?
I hope that's what I'm doing, and I'm really glad to hear that's what you think. I guess you're right. Like, when I do create the artwork, I'm neurotic as fuck myself, but when I create the artwork, I like it, and I send it out there, and I don't have a second thought.
Right.
Unless I'm being flagged by Instagram Or I was banned a couple times and like suicide reports and shit like that. Like, I'm gonna kill myself. If I'm gonna kill myself, it's because of this fucking suicide thing that you stopped letting me show my art.
Right.
Like, kill myself. Not now. But my approach sometimes when I'm stuck is like, has always been, since I started drawing again, this is how I kind of got back into drawing and I overcame my block, is to go extreme. Draw the most fucked up thing you can, and then work your way back from there to see where you're comfortable. Like, you're not going to know where you're comfortable unless you go all the way to the end.
Right.
And unfortunately for me, all the way to the end is just where I'm kind of comfortable. So it works out. I am neurotic and I second guess myself all the time, but not when it comes to the art now.
Right.
If I can't draw, that's when I'm like, if I didn't draw for a day or I stopped or I'm not creative for a day, then I'm like, oh no, this is all pointless. I'm not going to draw. What am I doing with my life? I have to go back to the grocery store. But so like, if I do draw and it's honest and it's how I felt at the time and I'm not lying, then I'm good.
Right. Yeah, it definitely gives a sense of, for me anyway, like a sense of well-being. You know.
It comes from so much not well-being though. Like,
I know.
It comes from when I'm at like the best time that I can draw is when I'm in this like really weird delirious state where I've worked myself up, like, you know, catastrophizing everything in my life, and I work myself up and I suddenly get to this, I hit this point where I'm like, I say something really stupid to myself that's so dramatic. Like, I'm just gonna go into the woods and fucking, you know, fuck off and dig a hole.
Right.
And like, see, that's where I'm gonna, like, that's my life now. And I draw it and I see how absurd it is, and then I'm like, okay, well, that's funny. I'm funny. It wasn't so bad, and I can kind of get over it. I can, you know, I got it out of my system.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Everything comes out of my system, and I'm good. I'm good to go. It's therapy. That's what I mean by it.
Yeah, that's cool. It's like it's a. This is, you know, again, I'll about this interview I did the other day. We were talking about that because he was saying the same thing. This guy Bobby Chu, he was saying, you know, he was shy. He felt like an outsider. He related to monsters because he felt like one, and we were talking about how it's like if you just have that freedom to follow your art and your impulse, you create your own therapy. You know, it's not like you're like, okay, how am I going to deal with these issues I have? It's like follow the art and a healing path. You know, it becomes a healing path, a therapeutic thing.
And realize that not everyone's going to get it.
Right. It's not about that.
Be okay with that.
Yeah, it's not about that. It's not about everyone. You know, it's also. I mean, I think that we're primarily doing this for ourselves, and we're just fortunate that people like it. And then
because of the internet.
Right.
Thank you, internet. Like, I wouldn't.
I know.
Without it, I have great fans, but they're all across the world.
Right.
Like, they're not in one town.
Yep.
I couldn't do anything in my one town.
Yeah. I mean, it's that's another amazing thing that gets taken for granted is the internet, and I've talked about it before. It's. You know, I remember back in my dad's day when he was, you know, in the 80s, even like 70s, 80s, even the 90s. It was like, how would you get your artwork? You had to go through galleries, and you had to kiss ass to try and get in galleries, and you had to, or you could take an ad out in an art magazine for $1,000. Just impossible to try and make it.
I can't imagine how hard that is.
You know, and Gabe.
Plus, artists hate kissing ass too. Like, we're so bad.
It's yeah. Oh yes. That's why part of the reason we become artists, because we don't want to kiss ass. But like Gabe Leonard, you know, he started. Was it in the 90s? But he took his stuff. It was before the internet was an option. He took his stuff down to Venice Beach and just started selling it on the boardwalk down there, just because, like, where else can you go? You have to put it in front of people somehow. And now with the internet, it's, you know, people should.
24/7.
Yeah. I mean, it's for artists. It's amazing. It's like social media's been kind of a nightmare in a lot of ways. And I always,
If you use it like social media.
yeah, if you use it the way they want you to, the way it was
If
designed.
you use it for art, it's like delightful.
Right.
And so many new up and coming amazing artists, I think, are just, that's how they're born.
Yep.
Because they see other people as weird as them. They don't have to, like, figure it out on their own.
Right. Yeah, and it's great for just like I said, also the being able to put out that message, especially as a woman. I think that's also like a really cool thing about what you're doing. Because there's expectations especially of women to be proper.
I got called a psycho, like, oh no, she has a child. That child's going to be a psychopath because of what she does.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, it's like it's got an added layer of coolness and greatness with that message you're putting out there, because you're just like, that's why that's part of where, like I said, it just seems like you're so confident and empowered to
I don't know how that happened. I'm happy. I'm happy. I agree with that.
You do.
Yeah.
It's like your art. It's like your art is like strongly. It's a big part of your artwork. So that's so cool, and it's such a great, important thing to. It's an important message. It's great.
The one undamaged, part of my brain that wants to save me from my artwork, and the rest of them are just like beating me up. But
right.
Especially that part.
Yeah, I think that's true for most of us. It's like, thank God for the art.
Yeah.
I remember when I went into therapy. I went into therapy in the '90s because of my OCD stuff, and I remember telling the therapist when I was just getting to know her, I was like, "Yeah, if it wasn't for my artwork, I think I would have gone crazy." And I just said it like offhand. I wasn't really, and she like brought me, like a good therapist does. She kind of brought me back to it. Like, what do you mean by that? And it got me to really think about it. That's like, I never really, up to that point, I'd never really thought about how I would be if I didn't have that outlet, and it probably wouldn't have been good.
No. I wouldn't like who I am without it. I don't think.
Yeah. Imagine us without the.
We need to have something you do. What would I do? There's something. I have like hobbies and passions, other passions, but what would you do? Like, it wouldn't be enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I can't imagine anything unless you're creative in a different way.
Right, yeah.
Of something.
But we're talking like without our art, we're talking about none of the creative stuff. Imagine life without that. It's like, it would be awful.
I don't think I'd be a nice person.
Yeah, exactly.
I get all the ugly stuff out. But like, imagine just being stressed out all the time and then not being able to get it out. You'd be snapping at everybody.
Right.
You'd make everybody you love hate you.
Yep. Definitely. So it's a healing thing.
I think that's why my family was so supportive of it, because they kind of knew.
Oh, really?
I would be okay without it. Yeah.
That's great. So the Kickstarter's like what? You got 12 days left?
Yeah, 12 days left.
Something like that?
Yeah.
So what's the name of it? What's the name of it? How do people find it? I'll put it in the link, but I always like to. I'll put it in the body of the text, but I always like to say it in case some people don't want to look.
The name of the book is "I Can Be Myself When Everyone I Know Is Dead."
Perfect.
Yeah.
So if you search that and Kickstarter, it'll come up.
Yeah, or if you just search Kamila and Kickstarter, I'm sure there's not too many Kamilas, but I don't know how to search that. I'm sure that's one of them.
Well, we'll put it in the body of the text. Mm-hmm. So you said, I was going to ask you, like, what are your future plans? But it sounds like you don't really have any. You have any goals?
Goals?
Art goals, overall career goals, or anything like that?
The fact that I'm making a book is like very satisfying to me right now.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm dead, there's going to be something in mass production.
Right.
Of mine.
I know you got a publisher too. It's like, I don't even have a publisher on mine. It's pretty cool that
it's a small independent Canadian publisher.
Still though, they came to you.
I'm lucky that like they're into
awesome.
Canadians and they want to promote some Canadian
right.
artists.
That's great.
Yeah, that was nice. I didn't expect that, because I don't think without a publisher I would make a book.
Right.
Because I don't have the patience for
Oh my God. It's a nightmare. It's been a nightmare of horrors.
I can't imagine.
It's terrible.
You got a designer though?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank God. But still, it was like just organizing, figuring out how to present it. It was like, terrible.
I wouldn't be able to do that myself.
Yeah.
That's why I'm lucky that I have them. And I've seen the book's pretty much done, and I've seen it on the computer, and it looks great. It looks way better. Like, they made it look really great. I'm like, did I make all that shit? That's good. What was the question? Oh, my goals.
Yeah.
I want to get back into sculpting. I want to keep learning. I want to take up oil painting.
Yeah, what media do you use with your drawings and stuff?
It's
mostly?
Horrible. See, when I started drawing, I was so scared of like a nice piece of paper. Like, it was intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
So I would start drawing on garbage. Like, literally, I would start drawing on scraps and garbage in the back of McDonald's, like kids' menus and stuff like that. And I would use masking tape because I would just use pen and be like, I'm not planning, I'm just using pen. So if I fucked up, I'd just put some masking tape down.
Right.
So now I still use ballpoint pen. I love it so much.
Yeah.
I use acrylic washes. I mean, I could use something actually made for washes like watercolor or gouache, but I refuse. I don't know. But I want to learn more stuff.
I love the way your stuff looks, and I love drawing with ballpoint pen. Actually, it's great.
I can't stop. Like, it's just so intuitive too. Like, you can go lighter and they go lighter. Like, it's just perfect.
Right.
I've tried other things. I also do use pencil crayon to finish up on top of the acrylic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on another book. I guess that's like worth mentioning.
Another book?
Well, it's like really, it took a long time. There's an author that contacted me a couple years ago, maybe more, because I'm bad with time. His name is Octavio, and he liked my art, and he started writing all these stories based on the art I've already created. And he just
cool.
sent them to me, and he's like, hey, you want to do a book? And I'm like, yeah. And then recently I Googled him, and it's a real author, so that's good.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
He's done books before, so I'm like hopeful.
That's amazing.
So he's actually just writing stuff for things I've already, like sketches and unfinished things I've already created that he's seen. And they're really cool, like dark,
excellent
little stories. And then so I'm just kind of like going back to all my old stuff and redrawing it like in a nicer way.
Oh, cool.
I'm redrawing it, like I'm much better at drawing now than I was 5 years ago.
Right.
So it looks better now.
How fun.
I don't know if it's going to be out because we're just finishing up. I think I just have like 10 or 15 drawings, but unfortunately I've been stringing him along for like half a year just to get these last ones done.
So you going to kickstart it again, or are you going to look for a publisher, or?
I don't know. I don't want to think that far ahead because Kickstarter is great, but it's also so like I've lost so much sleep over it.
I know, it's stressful. It's really stressful.
I'm so upset. Like I want everything. Like I just want everything done now. I hate waiting.
Right.
But I'm so grateful to everyone that's like donated. That's like beyond. Like when I was little, I never even thought I would get paid for anything I did. I'm so
right. It's amazing. Yeah.
For everything, but it's so stressful.
Just don't over promise on your rewards is all. That's number one. I'm like I got the book done. I'm waiting for it to get printed. I'll have it in November. Yeah. Actually, I haven't even had time to do an update on my Kickstarter page. This is 5 years now, right? Yeah. And it's I don't even want to talk about it. But I still have like a bunch of the rewards I still have to do and fulfill, and it's like it's because
some of them.
What's that?
So thank God for patient people, right?
Oh, people have been great. 98% of people have been amazing. 2% of people have been fucking assholes, and I'll never. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. A couple people were just so evil about it, but overall, everyone's been amazing. I can't complain at all, especially for a project that's taken this long. But the books ends up it's like an encyclopedia. It's so thick. It's great.
Pages.
What's that?
It's expensive. How many pages?
Almost,
especially
it's like,
now with everything.
I know. That's the other thing. It's just under 400 pages.
Oh, that's nice though.
Yeah, it's great. So people that waited, they'll be like, they're gonna get their money. It could be. I charged I think $40 for the book for the Kickstarter because I thought it was gonna be a 200-page book. It's not a $40 book. It's like an $80 book or something. So I'm gonna, I bought extra copies to sell. But anyway, my point being was that I still have a bunch of figurines I got to finish painting and a Ouija board I got to make that was a reward. And it was like, what happened was I was just afraid that I wasn't going to make it. So I kept offering more and more rewards and you start just like thinking, okay, the more money we could do, the better book we could make. And you start offering more, and it's just like it's part
of selling your soul for Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's been part of the whole thing is that part of the nightmare is that as soon as I got the book, then I still have 6 months of rewards to do, and then I got to fit that in with trying to keep making money. So it's not over for me, but it's close. Anyway, not about me. So you got that's cool. Another book coming out. It sounds like maybe he's handling all the other getting it published and stuff.
I should. But
it sounds cool though.
Yeah, I think it's called Odd Girls. Like a little. I don't know yet exactly what the end title is going to be, and he's giving me really free rein. And I'm drawing some fucked up things for him, and he's writing some fucked up things for me. So it's really cool. Like there's like a lot of like revenge. Little girls getting revenge on their, pedophile fathers kind of stuff going on in there.
Oh, great.
I don't know. I'm hoping a publisher will be into that and like it. I think it's interesting. I'm really into the stories. So that's exciting.
That's great.
Yeah, the sooner, the closer it gets to actually being complete, the more exciting it actually is because before that it's just an idea, an abstract idea. You're not sure.
Yeah, so, right.
Sure. So I thought, and my current publisher has asked me to maybe do a proposal for a book or two in the future.
Amazing. This is great. This is big for you. This is big news.
I sound not excited, but I'm excited. I know how much, like as I'm talking, I'm thinking, what am I going to do?
Right.
Right. And then I'm like, can I do it? Can I make a thing for someone who's asking me, or am I just going to do my own thing? Or maybe are they going to be okay?
Yeah.
Thing. I think they're kind of cool like that they know.
Right.
I am.
They got to know by now you're going to do your own thing.
Yeah. I'm working on it so hard, not being so rebellious to people that are trying to help me.
Right.
Like, no matter what, if you're trying to help me, even if you're trying to help me, I'm like, no. So, I'm working on that.
That's exciting, though. Sounds like that. I think seems like you're on a great path.
Yeah, some stuff's happening, so I'm happy. Yeah. I mean, even if I wasn't on a great path, I'd still be happy if I could draw every day.
Right.
I'm just lucky. I'm lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm a big fan. I love your stuff.
I'm a big fan of yours. So you saying you're a big fan of mine is, silently blowing my mind.
I've seen you've got Brahm's a fan of yours.
And I have some really cool people.
You've got some big artists that are fans of your work. It's like you know.
And then I'm like, am I pulling a fast one over them? Why are they fans of my work?
No, that's.
And then I think of the quote, I would never be a member of a club that would have me.
Right.
And I'm like, what's wrong with them? Why do they like me?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that just.
I don't know why they like it, but I'm happy. I'm not going to think much about it.
You like it. You like what you make.
I love it. I mean, Brahm, who's a personal hero of mine.
Same here.
Endorsed my book. And I listened to the Brahm interview too. I love him so much. He's so nice.
He's awesome.
That's the thing. People like you and there's Brahm and Doug Stannett and James Lepar. Like when I reached out to ask you guys for endorsements or whatever, you guys were so nice to me. Like, I wouldn't have been that nice to, like, you're just so nice. It just blows my mind, and it reinforces in me, people in this, like, in the dark arts are so nice to each other.
Right.
They're just unbelievably, like, people in my normal life aren't as nice as you guys are.
That's what I'm saying. That's what it seems like. That's what the way it is in the dark art world. It's really strange. And then it's like when a person comes up in that scene that isn't like that, then they stick out like a sore thumb. So it's like harder to get away with that kind of stuff, and because they'll just get ostracized immediately. So yeah, that's cool. But your work speaks for itself. So I think that I'm sure you've got even probably a lot more well-known artist fans that you don't know of yet. But having this book out, it's gonna. I'm sure they're gonna come out of the woodwork, and
hopefully I'm gonna influence some children in the wrong section of the library.
Definitely. Definitely. I can't wait to show my granddaughters your book.
Thank you.
But we'll have to have you back on too when your other book comes out, or whether it's through this publisher or the book with this other dude. Come on to promote it and check in with you and stuff. But it was really excellent to talk to you, and
it was so nice. I'm so pleased with how it went. And
oh, good.
I was so nervous. Thank you.
Oh yeah. See, it was like
we do put people.
It's easy. I think it's because I'm such like a slob or something. That people like don't get intimidated because I'm like this hairy guy, and my room's all messy in here. And but I'm not going to question it. It works. People enjoy it. But yeah. So where can people? Where's the best place for people to see your work?
Instagram.
Wooded Woods.
I mean, I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere. But Instagram, Wooded Woods, or Kamila, or whatever. Yeah, I have over 3,500 pieces of art just randomly there.
Excellent.
It's a lot to look through.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, you're pretty easy to find. Your artwork's easy to find online. You aren't easy to find, but your artwork is. But anyway, I posted in the Dark Art Society group on Facebook, and everyone was excited. Got a lot of people commenting how excited they were to hear your episode. So you've got a lot of fans in there. So so thanks for coming on the show. Really excellent talking to you, and awesome. So we have to do the sign off now, where we have to say goodbye to the audience, and don't hang up. I always forget to tell the people on this podcast that I interview, don't hang up when I say goodbye, because I have to stop the recording, and sometimes people hang up and it's awkward.
No, I'm not. I was already thinking about it. I'm don't hang up.
Yeah, but we have to say goodbye, audience. So say goodbye. Goodbye, audience.